Viewers, welcome to TV Metro Mail, and you are watching Chit Chat. I am Emamul Haque. This program is powered by PACE, Progressive Action for Community Empowerment. Many of you know that for last few weeks we have been dealing with the issue of racism. Today also we'll talk about racism. Particularly, we'll try to focus on systemic racism and religious discrimination. And I am very happy, I'm very delighted to have my today's guest. Viewers, today I'm joined by Faisal Hassan. Faisal Hassan is an MPP of York Southwestern. He is a critic of youth engagement. Faisal is a proud York Southwestern resident and an engaged community advocate. He has volunteered on the board of the Center for Equality, Rights in Accommodation, Habitat for Humanity, and currently serves on the board of directors at the Western King Neighborhood Center. He is a former broadcaster as well. Faisal Hassan, welcome to TV Metro Mail.
Thank you, Imam, for having me, and thank you to your viewers and audiences, TV Metro, for having me to be your guest, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much, Hassan. Hassan, let's since I have already mentioned that we deal with this issue of racism in this particular program, Inclusion Matters. So we are in Canada. We live in Canada, which is a democratic society or country, even the more multicultural than many other countries. So how come in a multicultural society the racism exists even in this year in 2020?
Well, I mean, that's a very good question, Imam. And I think, as you know, the anti-Black racism and anti-Indigenous racism exist in this country. And yes, and also, as you know, our country also, there has been also a lot of progress, a lot of mobility, a lot of positive things that also we need to highlight. But you're right, we have challenges. We have challenges of anti-Black racism, anti-Indigenous racism, and it just happens because we have institutions that are deeply rooted into a systemic racism, and we need all of us to come together and first to talk about it, call out those issues, and also make sure that we are working together to bring those changes that are needed to make better for our province and our country, so that we make sure that all of us are doing well and no one is discriminated here in Ontario.
Okay. Thank you very much, Faisal. Faisal, I have a number of facts in front of me, but I'm not going to use those right now. But let me ask you one thing: that Black Canadians make, significantly less money than non-racialized Canadian, regardless of how long their families have lived in Canada. How do you like to explain this? There are people, they are here, but they are being discriminated. How do you like to see this?
Well, I think that that is true. That discrimination exists. It is deeply rooted in our institutions. Yes, there are many, Black and Indigenous and racialized communities that are facing day in and day out systemic barriers and systemic racism. Yes, you're right. These are challenges that the community have been neglected, and this is the result of conservative and liberal governments that have neglected investing the root causes of good schools, investing in innovation of jobs and opportunities, and make sure that everybody has equal chance to participate in our economy. And that's why we want to bring change and to make things better. To do that, I think you're right. We have to talk about the statistics, we have to talk about the issues, and we have to bring to the table and say that this is the experiences people of Black and Indigenous and racialized people experiencing, and even the working class people experiencing, and that we need to bring everybody in the same level, and to do that. And that definitely requires a legislative framework to bring it an end to these systemic barriers.
Okay, thank you. So you mentioned about the legislative barriers. So probably we'll talk about that a little more later on. You yourself, you are now an MPP, member of provincial parliament,
Mhm.
but you yourself an immigrant, right? And you immigrated to Canada in 1990. So far, I know that.
Yes, right.
So many of us, we have heard the stories from our immigrant friends, those who are even doctors, those who are engineers, but unfortunately they end up with driving taxis and other jobs. So do you think that these are the result of the systemic racism?
I think there are a couple of things. Yes, there are many immigrants, and there are many immigrants who have happy stories, and those who are also, unfortunately, faces so much barriers. And we need to make sure that everybody in Ontario has a happy story, and that immigrants, yes, they're highly educated, they are contributing in significant way, but yes, we want to acknowledge their credentials, and we need to make sure that they are evaluated and they are contributing productively in our province. Some of them are PhDs, they are doctors, they're engineers, they have the knowledge and the skills, but we need to give them the opportunity. And most of the time, the barrier happens through the professional organizations and also lack of government leadership, because we need to think about how do we also educate our young people, because if we are bringing immigrants, then and we have also catering to them for their skills, for their age, for their what we call a point system, bringing people the highest successful people, people who have more skills and education. Then when they arrive here, we must work the federal government to provide the resources needed to integrate and to also provide opportunities. But also, we have to also evaluate their credentials and to integrate into those professions. And I think it can be done. We need a bold leadership. And unfortunately, the conservatives and the liberals, past governments, have let us down. And we need to make sure that we have a government, an NDP government, definitely will listen to the experts of immigrant professionals and skills to bring them into our workforce. That will require exams, that will require upgrades. Also, it requires them to actually be paid equal pay, and also their skills and past educations can be also translated and also applied here. There are some provinces that are already doing, and they are leaders, and we can learn something from that and implement it. So an NDP government is open to listen and to give every person in our province a fighting chance to contribute significantly and bring them into utilizing their skills and their capabilities to serve their communities.
Okay, thank you, Faisal. Faisal, we know about the Canadian history, past history of racism,
Mhm.
but let's not come to that right now. But since you have mentioned about the how the whole system is trying to help new immigrants to settle here, so the new immigrants or color immigrants, new immigrants face a tougher time here getting hired, or because the employers often mention that they need people with Canadian experience. I'd
Mhm.
like to ask you, what is in fact the Canadian experience?
Well, it's another form of discrimination. To me, what you need is you cannot discriminate applicants, and you have to give them the experience needed. They have to be given. For example, when Justice Trudeau, the Prime Minister, was running, a lot of people were saying, the all experience he has is as a teacher, and a lot of people were raising it, and a lot of people were saying, well, we have to give him experience. We have to elect him to become the experience, to do the job. This is the same story. If we are going a chance, the prime minister who has been just a teacher, from teacher he hasn't been even official opposition, from that too, and people are doing that confidence and trust on him, then I think we can also do the same thing to also give those engineers and doctors a chance to have the experience in the work, in the field at work. And I think it can be done. We need also to first test them in terms of what the credentials they have is actually correct, and that's a kind of references. And we could create a standard where they could have an exams, and then we can put them to work. Like every other professionals go through exams when they earn their degrees. They can automatically pass those exams. Then they should be participating equally as everybody else, and that can be done. And I think that's why I also introduced last year at the legislature that young people who are born here or who immigrate here, when they go to colleges and universities, when they come out for their first job opportunities, they too are asked experience. And experience, how are they going to gain experience if we don't give them the chance? So one of the ways to do that is early on providing them internships, placements, and also co-op opportunities that are paid. We could do the same things. These engineers, they can do 1 year internships, placements, and co-ops, and then they can go through, gain that experience, and then put them to work. So that is how we need to think differently to utilize our skills we have that have come here, and also those are in colleges and universities, to provide them internships, co-ops, and place them early on and put them to work. And that's why I think if we don't give them people, I don't like the word to say Canadian experience, because it also excludes some members. But if you give them specific tasks, what have you done? What experience have you had? Yes, take them exams, evaluate them, check references. That's where I think we need a standard to give everybody an equal chance to participate in our economy. And we need a lot of skilled workers. They're already here, and it's a shame that they're driving taxis.
Thank you very much, Faisal, that you have acknowledged that one, that the term Canadian experience is a different face of racist behavior or attitude.
Correct.
But definitely, we should, instead of saying that Canadian experience, we should focus on transferable skills. Whatever
Correct.
skill do you have, whether you can transfer that to Canada in a certain way. That's we can understand. Many people can understand. There are, as I said, that I have number of facts in front of me. Say, for example, here the employers are about 40% more likely to interview a job applicants with an English sounding name despite identical education, skills, and experience. How do you like to explain that? How can we change this kind of situation? Because this has been the experience of many people, and I found many people, they even change their name. They are not using their original name, and the moment they change their name, higher the scope or chances to get a response from the employer.
I think it's a shame that members of our community and every member, every person who applies a job should be given an equal chance to be given that chance for an interview, evaluated their applications, not because of who they are, not because of their name, not because of and hidden barriers that are being discriminated, to contribute in a more significant way. And I think we need to bring that to an end. And I know myself also, when I've applied many jobs, I can testify that one day I went to a newspaper and I saw a job, and I worked right away with my paper. And when I asked, I want to apply this position, I was told the position has been filled already. And I produced the newspaper. I said, it's just today's newspaper. How could it be filled? And she said, go away from here. And I went to
Wow.
the manager, and finally I fought hard, but I was given at least for an interview in that stage. But I think you're right. These barriers and systemic barriers is not helping all of us. And it is an experience that has its time has come to come to an end, because we need to acknowledge, we need to help every potential employee to give the chance to prove themselves and to contribute. And we are one community, and we need to make things better for everybody. And we need everybody, those who are practicing this kinds of practice, we want also to challenge them and say, it is your corporation's best interest to have diverse workforce, to have also talented folks who are not who do not look like you. And I think there have to be a system, a criteria. You mentioned about transferable skills. Yes, experience matter, but experience could only be could not only be one specific location. It could be there are many Canadians on here who are working overseas. Their experiences that they have somewhere else, when they come back, it's also a valid experience as well. So if you had you just immigrated, but you have experience working other skills, that too is an experience that can also be also applied to the current job, because you'll be able to do better. There might be certain things might be different, and that's where we need to start with them right on as the immigrants arrive, to provide them opportunities for internships for their specific skills, co-ops, opportunities which are paid, so that they understand the differences. Once they then take exams through their profession, and then they pass those exams, then they should be able to practice their skills and have the opportunity to hire that. And I think it is happening a lot, but I think we need to make sure that we also change these things, because if, say, because of your name, you will not be given an opportunity for an interview, and that is really exclusion. And I think we need to raise this issue and speak about it, and we need to highlight where it's happening, and it's happening more often. I know many people, and also I will also acknowledge, Imam, there's also competition. There are a lot of people who are unemployed. There are a lot of people who have so many advanced degrees. So the challenge of the competition is also fierce. So also the new immigrants also need some also creativity, and also a positive attitude to also try a kind of internships, but they have to be those opportunities created, being paid, so they have that experience, co-ops, placements, so they're tested in that, they get interactions with their bosses, build networks, and that's also sometimes it's also who you feel comfortable. Sometimes it's network. So it's a lot of things other than the skills as well.
So I think you're right that at least anybody, any immigrants from any part of the world, those who are in Canada, at least they should deserve a level playing field.
That's
So
right.
that
Mhm.
and you have rightly mentioned about the experience of our prime minister. Before getting into the politics, he was just a teacher.
Correct.
So if he can transfer his teaching skills into politics,
Yep.
then many people across the world, those who are coming to Canada, they can also transfer their particular skill to a particular area of the field where they like to work here in Canada.
Absolutely, you're right, and that's why I mentioned it, because I was candidate in 2015, and I had a couple of debates about that, and some people said, well, yeah, we have to give him a chance, because if we don't give him a chance as a prime minister, he will not gain the experience needed as a prime minister. This story is the same story to me. So if
That's
that
right.
is the case, every single engineer, doctors, we can also give them that chance to practice right here in Canada, because they are a member of our community.
That's right. Thank you very much, Faisal. Faisal, since so far whatever we have discussed, it seems that unfortunately the racism exists in our society
Yeah.
in a different ways. It takes different face in different situations. So where do we stand in Canada to address systemic racism?
Well, we have to tackle head on. No? Anti-black racism, anti-indigenous racism is real. It affects people's lives, and we have seen the conditions that the indigenous people in Ontario are experiencing. Some of them, as you know, they are still on a hot water boiled warnings. They still have not been supported by our government, federally and provincially, and we need to bring about treating them as equals, as nation to nation. We need to dismantle these systemic barriers that exist, and we need to do that. These conservatives and liberal governments has plenty of opportunities to do something. They let us down again and again. We need a different vision and different direction to bring the indigenous people, the racialized communities, the black community to on the table and give them a voice. That's why I'm so proud to be, for the first time, a member of the Black Caucus, as you know, in Ontario. And we have, for the first time, an NDP Black Caucus formed for the first time. And it was the first time that any party could actually elect enough members to actually form a caucus. And that's why we need to make sure we give a chance every single community, so that we have a representation reflected, across the province. Gender, as you know, our party also has a gender parity. Members our caucus, 50% are women and 50% are men at the moment. And that's also encouraging. But we need to do more, and we need to tackle racism. And it is real, especially institutionalized racism.
Thank you very much, Faisal. Faisal, as I said earlier, that this program is a part of the campaign against racism by PACE, Progressive Action for Community Empowerment, a non-for-profit organization in Canada. They are working in this field as well. So, in partnership with TV Metro Mail. So, I would like to ask you about that. When we talk about systemic racism or the racism, often people mention about the white supremacy or white privilege. So can you just tell us something about that? How come we get rid of this white supremacy, or what is that? What is white supremacy, and how do you take those things?
Well, I mean, what I mainly concerned about is the institutionalized racism. Yes, there are folks who have been privileged. We know the history of Canada, and its institutions were created, and also deeply rooted anti-black, anti-indigenous racism. Yes, systemic racism exists, as you know. We have been many racialized people, and blacks and indigenous people have been targeted. For example, I'll give you an example. Just the justice system, for example. When recently I visited a prison in Thunder Bay with our community corrections community safety critic, Kevin Yard from Brampton North. We visited there, and other members of the official opposition to a prison in Thunder Bay. And I saw indigenous and black prisoners there, and majority of them, they have not been convicted of anything. They're just waiting a day in court, simply because they have been accused of a crime but have not had a day in court. So they have to be imprisoned. But if they have a money, then they would have to be able to wait, and they would not have gone through that experience, what goes there, and the mental issues and other issues that they are experiencing in there. So that is one way. Our justice system is based on money. If you have more money, that then you have more a better chance of fighting or having a justice. We have also aware, about the cuttings that the police have subjected to black community and racialized communities. Street checks and cuttings. I myself have been carded 6 times, and that is not right. Minding your own business, and the data and the information collected is illegal. It's unconstitutional way of collecting them. We want to ban carding. These are the things we are talking about: institutionalized, systemic, that exist, and targeting minorities. And also another case in point, as you know, in Quebec, Bill 21 is another example of institutionalized discrimination against
Yeah.
a people of religion. And
Even in 2014, we saw that Bill C-24, I think.
yes,
Uh, yeah.
and Bill 51 too, which the current Prime Minister and Stephen Harper have passed, targeting certain communities. Even today, I receive many members of my community in York, Southwestern. People have been targeted, minding their own business, trying to have a vacation or visiting a families. They have been stopped at airports, put their names into just a data where they have been just harassed and discriminated because of their name. These are hard, decent, and hardworking, law-abiding people, but because somebody's making decisions to target them because of who they are. These are systemic discrimination that exists, and we need to change them. And how do we change them? Because we need those who are implementing these kinds of policies to understand this is also affecting members of their community. And it is wrong policies. So we want to also ask them to come consensus and say policies like this has no place in Canada, and we want to make sure that discrimination like that has no place in our country. And it's also require the efforts of reaching out to each and everyone members of our community to work together and dismantle these kinds of systemic barriers and systemic racism.
Thank you very much, Faisal. Faisal, do you like to share some experience from your political party? I mean the NDP. So, what is NDP's stance, particularly specifically to address this systemic racism, and
Well, I
what
mean,
what they are doing?
well, we believe that no one should be targeted because of who they are. And we do believe banning carding, it has no place. We want to deal directly the indigenous communities, a relationship based on a mutual respect, nation to nation, and also listen communities across the board and bring their concerns and addressing and making the system to work for everybody. We want to also reform education and also reform curriculums that are educating our young people, and we want to reflect the experiences of all peoples of Canada, including the indigenous, the black communities of the Caribbean, of the African continental, and also all immigrant experiences, the experiences reflected in our education system, so that the kids, young kids that I meet every day, feel self-confidence of who they are, so they could be more productive and proud of their community in which they were born or which they are member of. We want to create every opportunities for jobs and also economic recovery. We want to also give a chance for our students from universities and colleges, so that when they go to university and colleges there, we want them to have paid internships, placements, and co-ops, so that school is not only theoretical, but also it's a practical work experience, that they early on develop experiences for areas where they are going to be studying and working. So they know while they're in university and colleges what who are the leaders of this field of study they're studying. So if they could work there early on, internships, positions, co-ops, and then as soon as they graduate, then they could say, I have the experience that these companies needed. They could also develop relationship with those leaders in the industry. These are the vision we have. Also, we want to also tackle the issue we've heard about COVID. We are in the middle of pandemic, and you have seen that also that our seniors have been struggling. They're struggling because of the system that the conservatives and liberals have also set up by making profit maximization for our elderly folks in long-term home cares and long-term cares. We need to take out of profit in those long-term cares, and to make sure that our seniors are respected and provided the support they need. Small businesses, as you know now, small business, we wanted to give those small businesses that are racialized, immigrants, and all small businesses in our community an investment to support them so that they don't wither away. We have called for a support and stimulus to help them, to give them a rent relief right on, so that they continue the work they're doing. We have a vision, and we have a strong leader who cares, Andrew Horvath, as you know, and we need to form the next government in order to deliver all these reconciliation programs, and also to tackle also systemic barriers, systemic racism, and also investment for each and everyone who lives in this province.
Thank you. Thank you, Faisal. Faisal, I'd like to say we know that how important these issues are. We need to discuss about it. We need to talk more about those issues. So, if our young generation, young people, particularly the colored, multicultural young people, if they want to talk about the issue, so how they can talk about this kind of sensitive racism issues in the community?
Well, absolutely. I think our young people, what I would advise them is, because we are multicultural, And many places where they go, they are minority in numbers, and they have been asked, some things that others are not asked. So it requires really for them early on to develop skills of survival, skills of how to develop, how to navigate the system in which they are. They need more role models, professionals coming back to the community and providing them that leadership, and also bringing them also having more skills. That's why I believe that in high schools we should also produce not only academics but also other skills, so that they could learn also hands-on skills early on, and finance, and also academics, science and mathematics, so that they excel in those fields that are needed for the future opportunities. So that we have to prepare them and invest them early on, so that they have to, because what I do believe is economic empowerment and economic opportunity is what every community needs. And the NDB government will invest jobs, will invest opportunities for uplifting people too, because immigrants, as you know, they are entrepreneurs. They need opportunities of borrowing money. They need opportunities of creating their own alternative ways of developing jobs, of creating companies that they can hire other Canadians as well. So we need to bring a different vision. And I would advise young people, be disciplined, be hardworking, and focused. And that requires also their parents also, being a role model to them. And it's a challenge, when you are in minority, you have been told, this is not your place. I do experience it, and continue to experience racism, but also how you handle it also is also a different kind of skills required. And we need to also to teach young people early on how to mitigate, and how to because it is also emotional, and
Definitely.
also is very tough. And also we need to the majority also to understand what we're going through. There are so many allies. There's so many people who are concerned what we are concerned about, and we need also to work together to build opportunities. That's what we need, and we know we have, especially the last 15 years, has been really, really hurt many communities like my community who has not been invested. You know that all the jobs have left in the 90s with manufacturing, with good paying jobs. So there's also a lot of people who are unemployed, have no opportunities. We need to put people back to work, provide them skills, and also the skills for the jobs of the future.
Okay, thank you, Faisal. Before we wrap up, I think we have a few more, three, four issues. We will briefly like to touch up on those things. We have seen that this discrimination can take many shape in many the different ways it comes to our life. So, how people are being discriminated based on their belief or religion? Do we have any kind of policy which is particularly favoring in a particular religion or section or group of people
Well,
in Canada?
Quebec comes to mind, which, minorities there are struggling. They're struggling. Even recently, the premier have put a bill against religious intolerance. We've seen there, targeting women mainly. In the Ontario legislature, we have a motion to ask the premier to tell the Quebec premier racism based on religion, color, and ethnicity has no place in our province. And I don't know what he did. He hasn't. He has met with him, but I would have advised the premier to take a stand on that, because if you are denying women for opportunity, for employment, for advancement, for jobs and opportunities, and this is Canada, and it's also unfortunate that the federal leaders of all political parties has not taken a strong stand on that, because Quebec is part of Canada. And that's a case example that the legislature, even though there are some who have voted against that bill, I believe there are 39 or 29
That,
members of the elected Quebec, and I think we thank them for their stand on that, and their courageous vote they have cast. But we need strong leadership from all political leaders in Canada to send a strong message to Quebec. And we, the official opposition, said this has no place. Discriminating people of faith, whether it is a Jewish community or Muslim community or Christian communities, and all symbols of religion is targeted. But mainly target is Muslim women because
Yeah.
they are wearing hijab, and
Yeah.
because of that, this imagine a teacher being denied opportunity for employment, denied opportunity to be a policeman, a judge, and this is Quebec. It's not far. It's right here in our country.
That's right.
So, so we will ask. Even Trudeau didn't say nothing about that, and it's a shame that we have these kinds of politicians in Quebec that are targeting a Muslim community and people of all religion in that case, and
Okay.
especially women.
Okay, I understand that. But sometimes, the people are a bit confused that because when the policy level people, the public representatives, they are in part of forming such a racial, kind of bill or law. So what the general people should do, they can raise their voice, right? So they can
Yes.
raise their voice. They can talk about it through their elected representatives at provincial level and at federal level, definitely.
Definitely. I think in Ontario, it hasn't been any bill like what happened in Quebec, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm proud of province of Ontario for not targeting people of religion in that regard. And that is encouraging. I think we can work better, but I think we need a lot of work in Quebec. I don't know the experiences of racialized because I have only visited once, and when I visited Montreal, I've been ticketed basically. I've been given by by Montreal police. Simply, I was walking on the street, and he came to me and gave me a ticket. That too. Talk
Okay.
about racism.
That's right.
Yeah, and I didn't want back again, and I don't intend to go back to Quebec, to be honest with you, because
I,
I don't. Yeah, I don't want to go places where minorities are targeted on the streets of Montreal or
okay.
or in the legislature, to be honest.
That's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, I think all policy level people, the politicians, and those who are working in different level in our policy, they should know that at the end of the day, our purpose is to manage our diversity quite well,
Right.
and we have to do everything possible in that way. So lastly, I would like to ask you on this, since you are a public representative, if someone or if I face um, you know racism somewhere, so what should we do, what person should do, and where they should go to report or address, or how should they handle this kind of situation?
The first thing you need to do is speak out. Speak out, share that, talk to your representatives, talk to whomever close to you. If that means talking to your lawyer, if that means talking to your representative, do it. You have to speak out when you see that. And it's important we do that so that we can then tackle that issue. you know and I know that also a lot of young people are leaders marching on the streets for social justice, for climate change, for
Yeah.
the rights of all of us, and that's encouraging. People are coming together to stand up for their rights, and that is encouraging too. And we need a government, imam, that can listen, and that is a progressive, that can address the concerns we have. And I think the NDP government have the vision and the plan to do so.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Faisal, for joining us today and share your experience and insights. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, Imam. Thank you.
Thank you. Viewers, thank you very much for watching our program. We were discussing issues, particularly the systemic racism, with Faisal Hassan, the MPP of York South Western. And I think in our next program, we'll bring our new guest. We'll talk about some other issues related to racism. The important thing that we have understood from our today's discussion, that there are many things that we need to address in future as well, and we must remember that we live in a diverse community, and we do not have any other option but to manage our diversity quite well. Thank you very much for being with us. Stay tuned to TV Metro Mail. Thank you very much. Bye bye.